and just make sure that they knew that I cared about them. And up here, you know, I think that we have a serious job to do, and we're intent on doing our jobs, and we try not to let things get in the way. And at the same time, there's a value in just you know, thinking about what's going on and trying to come to terms with it.
Yeah, I'm curious. Does it get lonely in space?
Well, you know, I was very excited about this interview just because I won't necessarily say it's lonely up here, but there are not a lot of other women. And so actually the thought of sort of having coffee with you guys was really appealing to me. In fact, I brought mine. You know, I'm serious. That there's something nice about girlfriends.
I love that.
There's something nice about sitting around with your girlfriends and saying hello.
Yeah, I love that. I'm curious how you also prepared to leave for 6 months. That's such a long trip.
Well, you know, I did my best. I know I've left a lot of holes. I'm still writing back and forth with my husband and making sure he understands how to get my W-2 and all those kinds of, you know, administrative things. You know, my son had known for a couple years that I'd be going to the space station, and I tried to make it really clear when it would happen. It took several years to train. I traveled to Japan, to Europe, to Russia, and around the U.S., training for really almost 3 years to get ready for the mission, and that's actually worse in a way than being up here. They like to say that when I'm up here, at least they know where I am, and in fact, they have an application, where a computer program that they look at, and they know exactly where I am, and they go, "Mom, you're going over Australia." So it's pretty fun to be up here now where they know where I am.
Wow. What research are you doing in space that you're most excited about?
On a day-to-day basis, I love to do the things that I actually get to touch and move, like the experiment that you saw with the bubbles just now. But some of them aren't as tangible. We're doing some research in osteoporosis, which I think is fascinating and valuable. Basically, I'm an experiment, and because we lose bone mass up here, because we don't walk around on our legs, we lose bone at about 10 times the rate of a 70-year-old osteoporotic woman. And so because I don't have some of the potential complications that somebody who's 70 might, I'm sort of a clean medical specimen to do some experiments. And so I'm taking some of those drugs, and we're looking at how my bone mass is changing. And we looked at it before I left, while I'm up here, and also when I get home. And it'll help us understand a lot about how osteoporosis, the mechanism of osteoporosis, which certainly affects millions of people down on the Earth.
Do the health implications of that scare you?
I won't say they scare me, but I'll tell you that I take them very, very seriously, in that we exercise, you know, about almost 2 hours a day, which I'll say I'm not disciplined enough to do down on the Earth. But I do it up here because the implications of not exercising are really having a tremendous amount of bone loss. And I have a 10-year-old, and I figure I still have a lot of running around to do when I get home.
Cady, I wanted to ask you, other than your family, your son, what do you, as a woman, what do you miss the most?
You know, I'm actually so excited about being here and just living in this environment and discovering new things every day in terms of what's delightful about just being here, about moving back and forth. It's just really such a neat place. I don't actually miss anything yet. I certainly miss my family quite a bit, and but at the same time, it's not as if I wish to be there. I'm really happy to be here.
Cady, you mentioned that you exercise 2 hours a day, but being that you have no gravity, how do you exercise in space?
You know, it's a great question, and we have a weightlifting machine which works. It works on a principle of vacuum. Like, I'm not really lifting weights, but I'm pulling against something that's that's pulling on a vacuum, and so it's really hard. Like, you know, when you're trying to get a lid off a jar that's got vacuum on it, it's harder than if there was no vacuum, or when you're pulling against something. So that we do weightlifting, and I'll do, you know, it's like a gym. You know, we have a bar, go up and down, and use my legs. I can do sit-ups, all these arm weights. We have a treadmill that I wear a harness, and it holds me down on the treadmill. And I have to say that it was really interesting after a few days of not exercising, floating around up here. It was fascinating to suddenly be on the treadmill, standing on your feet. And I thought, wow, standing, that's interesting.
What's the first thing you want to do when you eventually do get home, back to your family?
Well, I'm assuming a shower will be like right in there. I mean, I'm actually clean up here. You know, my hair is clean, and you know, we take sponge baths literally, and so you're clean. But there's just nothing about like being, you know, actually in a shower. I think, you know, just being on the earth and walking around on your feet, and I think smelling. And smelling, you know, just the garden and outside and the street and cars, and that kind of sense is a little missing up here. And even just listening to noises that aren't just the hum of the space station, and feeling the wind. I'm looking forward to maybe being on a beach and feeling the wind and looking at the ocean.
As we get ready to say goodbye, is there any message you'd like to send out to your 10-year-old son or your husband, your family?
Well, you know, I miss them so much, and I appreciate, I mean, it's a lot of work for them, for me to be gone. And I'm just hoping that while I'm up here, the things that I'm doing end up being worth it. And I actually just really think that they will be. What we do here in space somehow says to kids, wow, don't you want to be an astronaut? Don't you think you could do this? Somehow they look at us and they think they could do this, and they're right. And it inspires them to study hard in school and learn the math and science that they need to be part of the future, because they are the future. So it's a long time to be away from family. It's actually a magical place to spend that time in, and I think that the payoff is very big. It's nice to be with you guys today.
Cady Coleman, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best of luck up there in space. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Take good care. We'll be right back.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Copy. Thank you. Nice to hear from you guys.